We have breaking news. Jordan Neely's family speaking outside court after a jury found Daniel Penny not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in Neely's death on the New York City subway. Let's listen.
Let us know that our lives have value. Jordan Neely was choked to death by someone who didn't care people was telling him to stop. Last week, the jury they couldn't decide on the top charge, but they come back this week and they give up on us. The family's hurt. I promised this family that we would get justice. We're still going to do that. We're going to move forward with our suit. The district attorney did a good job, but the jury in this case let us down. So now here's what we have. We have a call to action. Because you have to do something with this anger and with this rage. Our call to action is to take care of each other. We can't rely on outside people. If we see someone asking for food, we have to take the responsibility to give it to them. If we see someone cold, to give them a coat. If we see someone going through something, to ask them if they're okay. That's how we help each other, because we can't rely on the system to do it for us. And clearly, if we get to this point, it's too late. We have to be there for each other, and that's our call to action. Everybody that's pissed off at this verdict, I challenge you to go outside today and help one person. That's my challenge. If you're angry, if you're hurt, go help one person. That's how we beat the system. That's how we turn this around, by being there for each other.
I just want to say, I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we gonna do, people? What's gonna happen to us now? I had enough of this. The system is rigged. Come on, people. Let's do something about this.
Let's do something about it. Too often, we have Eric Garner's mother here. There's too often this is happening where we're left alone in this society. We got to stop that. We have to change how we impact each other. Jordan came on that subway car. The first thing he asked for was food, and he was killed. And the person who killed him was not held responsible. We cannot allow this to keep happening.
I got you. Oh. Look like the police are attacking protesters. Are they?
Good morning, everyone. Here we stand once again in front of this unjust system. I stood here 10 years ago because they did not give justice to my son with the chokehold. I fought hard to get the anti-chokehold bill passed, which did pass. But it shouldn't only be for police officers, it should be for civilians also. No one deserves to be choked to death. No one. And you know, we're in that courtroom and people are cheering for the verdict. They made the loudest noise, the judge did nothing. But when his father spoke out, they put him out the courtroom. Is that justice? Or what? We can't allow this to keep going on. We have to fight this system. That's what I had to do. I had to fight to get the little justice that I got. I got one police officer fired. There's more that need to be fired. But I tell this family, do not give up. Because that's what they want you to do. They want to discourage you. Just like they tried to discourage me. But 10 years later, I'm still fighting. And I'm not only fighting for myself, I'm fighting for families like yourself. That's why I have to come out when this injustice is done. If this had been the other way, if your family had murdered this so-called innocent guy now, it would have been a different story. He would have been in jail or would have never came out. But they don't do the same to us. It's two justice systems.
You know that.
And we have to stop this. And the only way that we can stop it is to stand together. Those of us who are against what happened, we have to speak up. We can't treat this just like another news story, not another press conference. We have to speak up, and stand up. So I just say today, we did not get justice once again. And I am saddened. I am truly saddened by the situation because it keeps on happening and no one is standing accountable for their actions.
You're watching Gwen Carr, Eric Garner's mother, speaking next to the family of Jordan Neely after a jury found Daniel Penny not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in Neely's death. Neely's father spoke earlier saying the system is rigged. Prosecutors had claimed Penny held Neely in a chokehold for too long, causing his death, while the defense argued Penny acted in self-defense. ABC's Stephanie Ramos joins me from outside a New York City courtroom, along with ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer here with me in studio. So, Stephanie, what's the latest on this verdict?
Well, Diane, protesters and counter-protesters have gathered here outside the courtroom. Protesters chanting no justice. They've also been saying Jordan Neely's name. Counter-protesters can be seen holding signs that read Daniel Penny is a hero. The jury today deciding that 26-year-old Daniel Penny, a former Marine, is not guilty of that lesser charge, criminally negligent homicide, which would have carried about 4 years in prison. When that verdict was read in the courtroom, there was a mix in reaction. There were cheers and there were cries. But right now, we know that police are with some of the protesters and counter-protesters within the pen to try and keep the peace there right now. But again, a mixed reaction in the courtroom and outside here in downtown New York City.
Daniel Penny, a former Marine who choked a fellow subway rider on a charge of criminally negligent homicide on Monday, ending a case that had come to exemplify New York City's post-pandemic struggles. The jurors decided that Mr. Penny's actions were not criminal when he held the rider Jordan Neely in a chokehold as the two men struggled on the floor of a subway car on May 1st of 2023. Mr. Neely, who was homeless and had a history of mental illness, had strolled through the subway car that afternoon, yelling at passengers and frightening them, according to witnesses. The jurors had spent more than 3 days trying to come to a unanimous decision on whether Mr. Penny, who was 26 years old, was guilty of manslaughter. A higher charge in the death of Mr. Neely, who was 30 years old, on Friday. The jurors sent 2 notes to the judge overseeing the trial saying that they had deadlocked. After the jurors, 7 women and 5 men sent the first note that morning, the judge, Maxwell T. Wiley, instructed them to resume their deliberations. When the jurors sent the second note in the afternoon, telling Justice Wiley that they were still unable to reach an agreement, he granted the prosecution's request to dismiss the charge. He sent the jurors home for the weekend, telling them to prepare to begin deliberating on the lesser charge, criminally negligent homicide. On Monday, unanimously, they decided to acquit Mr. Penny. The decision was a defeat for the office of Alvin L. Bragg, Manhattan's district attorney. So his statement was, we deeply respect the jury process and we respect their verdict, he said, but simply put, this is unacceptable and everyone, no matter your opinion on this case, should condemn it. And that's from Mr. Bragg. So welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Professor Carl Tone Jones, Patrick Irvin. We are back once again talking about the Daniel Penny, Jordan Neely case. And we have updates to, we've just learned a couple of days ago that Daniel Penny was acquitted of the charges of criminally negligent, and the homicide charges were dismissed because of a hung jury. I'm confused in the mug. Even though, you know, the first time we talked about this, Pat, you did say in PC, you know, y'all talked about the possibility of him not being charged. And so we are here, we are at that crossroad. You know, we was like, we'll deal with it when we get to it, where we're here now. So, but before we get deep into it, make sure you all like this video, comment, subscribe, share this video. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, because if you don't, PC gonna come get you. So that's how it go. And make sure y'all visit FetLifeStation.com to check out PC immediately following this. If you don't, then you don't like black people. Like Joe Biden said, if you don't check out PC's show, then you don't like black people. Right. And make sure y'all go to PAX.org, the PAX Inc. website, which is thepax.org. Make sure you check it out. Pat has put a lot of time and effort and a lot of great information on that website. So make sure y'all go check it out. You're gonna learn a lot. The worst thing gonna happen to you when you go to PAX is you're gonna learn something. So here we are. Once again, here we are at this crossroad with Daniel Penny being found not guilty and the manslaughter charges being dismissed. Pat, I'm gonna jump to you first, man. You know, we spoke briefly about this the other day. What are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts on this? Because this is, you know, a lot of people are going to say this is another chapter or another log on the fire of the system of white supremacy being able to get another victory over us. But what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are complicated.
Because we do live in two different Americas, and I don't know why people think that you can merge a multiverse. It really doesn't make sense to me. Like you, and in this particular multiverse, you get to pick your universe. So you go to the universe you want to be in, but you got to deal with the good and the bad of that universe. You don't get to like have it. It's horrible saying, but I agree with it because it's factual and we all understand it. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. You don't. You get the cake. You can look at it, but you can't eat it. We can all agree. It's a stupid analogy because I got a cake. I want to eat the cake. Why can't I eat the cake? It don't make sense. But that's life. It ain't fair. It don't make sense. You had $1 million idea yesterday and you ain't got $1 million today. It don't make sense. That's kind of what we're dealing with. I think I can appreciate what the lawyer was saying as he was speaking in the clip, but also it's more the same. Helping people in that way is not a proper or appropriate call to action. Now, I get it. He's trying to give people something to do with all that energy, but you got to give them something to do that's relative and that is understandable to them in terms of a realistic way to help them get out of the spiral that they're currently in. And going out and giving a cold person a blanket is not going to help somebody that is infuriated over their belief that a black person was strangled by a white person and nothing happened. They're not going to see those things as equal. So that is a pointless call to action. People aren't going to do that. For those people that are truly emotional and upset about this. For those people that aren't, they're not going to do it because why? So I can appreciate what he's trying to do, but then you get back into, okay, the same question we ask all the time. What is the purpose of these activities? Like, what is the purpose of the movements that we're seeing? Then you get back to the other tropes of stand together. Stand together and do what? Y'all ain't saying nothing. It's a whole lot of noise and lips moving and nothing's coming out. It's too many slogans. There's not enough action. Stand together and do what, to whom, for what, for how long, utilizing what, and how will that help us not be here again? You know, like it's too many things. So, and then you get into the notion of nobody was held accountable. Well, here you go. And this is, you know, like something you talk about, Joe, all the time. You talk about power all the time. In order to hold somebody accountable, you got especially somebody that refuses to accept responsibility, You have to have power. Accountability is an external thing. Responsibility is an internal thing. You don't have to hold people accountable when they're responsible. So the mere fact that we're talking about accountability means that there is something wrong with the internal structures that we're looking at where responsibility is not being voluntarily taken. So now you're having to force responsibility onto them. That is accountability. That requires power. You can't go and say the system is rigged against us. We don't have no power. They're undermining us, blah, blah, blah. And then say, we got to hold them accountable. That is not how accountability works. So I understand what they're saying. I understand why they're saying. But again, it's more the same stuff that keeps us in a place where nothing happens. And then we also have to accept this. White people and black people see this incident two different ways.
Yes.
And that's just the facts of it. To black people, another black man was killed. To most black people. Let me not generalize because we're not a monolith. I get it. So to most black people, they see another grave injustice where a white man is being saved and celebrated for killing a black man.
Mm-hmm.
White people, and this is where look, black folk, y'all need to really understand this. The white people that are celebrating this, they really feel like this man did a national service. They're not putting on the front. They're not lying. They're not faking. They're not pretending. They genuinely feel like this man protected everybody on that train.
You can't be one of the black people who were like when Trump got elected, you was like, well, racism is back. You have that mindset. You have to expect the system to be what it is. You have to expect America to be what it is because, like you said, we have no external force or no opposing force, rather, to change things in our favor. So you have to expect things not going in our favor until we can change it for ourselves. Really,
which goes into what the other thing he was saying. The jury let us down. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. How did the jury let you down? Like, and then it's like, think about when you say stuff like that, it makes it sound like you had a backdoor deal with the jury. Like you negotiated with them for something. Like you're not even thinking about what you're saying. The jury let us down. Like that's the level of like, it's like, all right, if we're gonna play war games, let's play war games, right? Why would you give your enemy the opportunity to undermine any future decision you have by pointing to this statement and being able to say anytime it doesn't go their way? Remember when he said that the jury let them down? That's because them Negroes got a background deal with the juries. So when it don't go our way, it really is rigged. And that's more of a reason we should rise up and overthrow things because they don't look the way we want them to. Like, of course, I'm pulling it out of my butt, but you give them an argument like that when you say silly stuff like that. Why is that? Why is that level? That's just like first thing. Why are we not even thinking that deep when we start strategizing? You know, why is the strategy go give people blankets, stand together, they let us down? Go ahead, PC.
Hey, now what's interesting, what's funny though is when I was clipping this up, when I saw the video and I was clipping it up and I saw the father speaking, I just saw this your soliloquy. I saw it in my head because I know how you think, and you could not. But that's the beauty of us three is we, I'm in the Toyota, you in the Acura, and PC in the F-150, right? And so, but we're gonna get the same, and we're gonna get to the same place. But we think different, and you're a technical Ted. You can't help it. You're gonna be technical Ted, and the way you view it and the way you break it down and analyze it is from that standpoint of view, and so that's why it all meshed together. So yeah, but I mean, I kind of anticipated that, but that viewpoint is needed though. We need that reality check. So you're not trying to spare people's feelings. You're like, hey, this is the reality of it. We are here again. Here we are again. Now, what we gonna do about it for real this time? PC, what's your thoughts, man?
Well, it ain't about the cure. It's about spreading the awareness. Dark side. Shout out to Ace Vane. So that I mean, when I saw that, and I heard about the verdict earlier this week, I didn't. I'm not surprised by it, and to be quite honest with you, I'm not even surprised about the reaction afterwards. Yeah, we figured he was going to get away with it. We even said as much the last time we talked about it. Like,
Yeah.
this is not something new. So imagine if you have American soldiers that have occupied a country overseas somewhere, and for whatever reason, um, there's an incident and a child is deleted in the incident. But the American soldier says, well, I thought the child had an IED. And because of that, I had to take the child out. And there's a military trial over there. And I'm not sure exactly how it works. I think the judge will presides the ruling, but the judge is a former vet. The judge has been in those situations. The judge sees it that way. And the soldier is they're exonerated for the actions because it was plausible deniability in terms of their intent. In America, Black people don't want to. They want to treat this and they want to call it pretty names like social injustice, but it's not social injustice when you're at war. And see, the reason why they can't come up with a solution is because they're afraid to acknowledge the war. So if you're afraid to acknowledge the war, then you're going to be afraid to come up with a game plan that addresses the warlike action that was placed against you or committed against you. And that's where I see this. When Daniel Petty, is that his name?
Penny.
Daniel Penny. Yeah. When he attacked Jordan Neely on the train, you can imagine it's not the first time he saw him if he catches that train all the time. We talked about that before. He waited till his back was turned like a coward. Once he got the advantage on him, he did the exact same thing that happened in Minnesota when that dirty police officer got his knee on the neck of George Floyd. The only difference is one was a cop and one was a former Marine. So, but the result was the same. Now, I promise you, if it wasn't for the political pressure that was placed upon that police officer wouldn't have got convicted either. He was convicted the second he stepped into the courtroom, just because of the political pressure. Somebody had to take the L that day. We have to start addressing these matters from a position of weakness. Now, you talk about power. We refuse to do the things that are necessary to create the type of power that we can actually hold somebody accountable. We want to get back to the party. We want to get back to leisure lifestyles. So we're just praying it don't happen to us until it does. Then we want everybody to get on code. It's too late. They're not programmable to get on code because they've been spending their entire time, evading the code. So as much as I hate to say, this is on us as a community because we refuse to put ourselves in the position to get better outcomes because we refuse to acknowledge the war and we refuse to get on code. I saw a different topic altogether, but there's a video out by resident elder George Frazier.
Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, he was talking about that the biggest problem with black people as a community is that we can't build generational wealth because black men and black women are not marrying each other. The lowest marriage rates in the country in concerns to other demographics of people. Black people in fourth place when it comes to wealth in the community, behind East Indian Asians, the Chinese, and whites, and just above Latinos, right?
Yeah.
Just above.
They're coming for us, though.
But Latinos have a higher marriage rate in their building, right? In the comment section, you saw people defending being single. In the comment section, the code is there. If you want to build power in your community, you got to do this. Well, we don't want to just enter into toxic relationships. Oh, I want to be free as a butterfly. I don't want to be committed to this, that, and the other. And it's like, maybe y'all not understanding the depth of the conversation. And I really think that is, we talk about all the time, the arrested development in which black people see things. When you're a child, children are selfish. Children are selfish. They want their way. They don't care because they don't understand the rules and the processes. Black people are children. And I know people get offended. I'm not no child. Stop taking the shit personally. So collectively, we respond to crisis. We respond to the nation building as children. You can't pick and choose when you want to be nationalist. You can't pick and choose when you want to be a black nationalist and things of that nature. Y'all tried it before with this past election. I'm going to keep bringing that up. It didn't work because you're selective when you want to be black, and then you want to be multicultural. Then you want to blend into American society and be part of the melting pot. But the bottom line is all these other people, they are who they are all the time. So white people, no matter what country of origin that they can trace their roots back to, they get on code when it comes to issues concerning the white nationalism. This was a concept around white nationalism. Pat is absolutely right. Those white folk did what they were supposed to do.
Right.
We get mad when they do what they're supposed to do because we see ourselves as still appeasing them. So we got people still trying to appeal to the better nature of people who have never shown you their better nature.
Magical Negroes.
Collect, but well. so what it is these results are going to continue to happen because we're not doing anything different to change the culture. So they know they can do it and get away with us. What did the guy from Black Lives Matter say? Which Black Lives Matter should be defunct at this point. But what did he say? We need to go around and we need to stop doing to the vigilantes what they're doing to us. And dude, shut up.
Yeah. Look at here. I'm glad you said that. Look at here. Coming from this On the Shoulders of Giants channel, don't be listening to these Negroes who not willing to go out and do what they're encouraging you. Don't go out there trying to be no vigilante and get messed up out here.
But he lives in New York. What? Listen.
But see, man, when I saw that, I was like, well, why don't you go do it?
I'm gonna tell you, because you don't have the cojones to do it. You know, there was another incident of violence that occurred in New York over the last week or so, and this occurrence was an executive, the CEO of United Healthcare, getting clipped right in Manhattan. And they caught the guy. When they caught the guy, he had a little manifesto and this, that, and the other. Turns out he actually worked for United Healthcare. Spent some time here in Philadelphia, University of Penn. Graduated. Fine products that Penn's producing. But one of the things he said was he had chronic back pain and he got turned down, allegedly. Apparently, he got turned down for service. He took matters into his own hands. And listen, a toothache could probably make me hurt somebody. I can't imagine chronic back pain and you getting turned down and you can't even sleep with chronic back pain. Do you know what that'll do to a person? He scouted that man for a month, waiting for that moment, that one moment. And I'm saying, like, until you get, and I promise you, there's more to this than meets the eye, but I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that part. But when you want to stop it? You want to stop this stuff? Because I tell you what happened immediately after old boy got clipped. All of the medical companies that have been denying people medicine, that have been hiking up the cost of their prescriptions, they removed all of their executive pages from their websites. You got changed that day. Black people, all y'all do is talk. And that's why ain't nobody respect what's going on. So on one hand, what the brother was saying, the Black Lives Matter brother, I understand it, but he ain't willing to do it. So don't try to coach somebody else into doing it.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what's funny? The guy that did that situation up there in Manhattan, he had a handwritten manifesto. But prior to that, nobody even saw him coming because he kept his mouth shut. And I land my plane right there.
I mean, you hit on something. You're talking about the political pressure that was around the Daniel Penny case wasn't nowhere near what it was around the George Floyd case. And this Daniel Penny case, for the most part, flew under the radar as far as mainstream. And what that shows also is how the media still controls the pulse of Black people as far as our emotions, getting us riled up. Because if this had been mainstream, even though there are protests in the street in New York, there's not national protests. The majority of the country still have no idea. Majority of Black people still have no idea that this happened, no idea that this is going on. They focusing on Diddy, Jay-Z, and all these other things, right? But majority of Black people have no idea that this happened. So you're right. The political pressure isn't there. And looking at this case, looking at all the facts that they presented us, and I'm trying to find more and more information about the jury and what made them come up with the decision that they came up with. Because, last time we did our broadcast on this, the information we had said that he held Jordan Neely in the chokehold for 15 minutes. Now they're saying 6 minutes, but nevertheless,
all you need is 3.
He chose to restrain him via chokehold and keep the chokehold locked in.
And tighten the grip, because that's what happens. You vice the grip. It becomes like a vice. You tighten the grip every time they move and get in a better position. That they teach you that in restraint training, they teach you how to break out of that if you're trained. But if somebody gets a tight enough grip on you, and you don't know how to pull their thumb, or you don't know how to tuck your chin in a certain direction and push the elbow up, like if you're not trained to deal with that, you might panic. And the young brother was clearly distressed, so he was already He was already in a place of panic when it happened.
Health issues.
But I'm going to get back to something you said though about people not knowing. I'll go a step further. People didn't care. People, like you said, the irony about this case, it came out the same week that the allegations about Jay-Z came on the news. And I don't think that's an accident. I don't think any of these stuff, because that was in New York too. I think none of it's an accident because they know which one we will choose to feed in terms of our attention. Yes.
The media didn't make us care about this one.
But the whole case, but both cases, right? You put a situation like more people are talking about, the situation, which if the allegations are true, is terrible. Like the Jay-Z situation, right?
Yeah.
But it was juxtaposed, and actually back in 97, 96, 97, around 96, 97, the CIA had a press conference in Los Angeles. And the press conference was talking about the unveiling of the truth of their actions concerning piping crack cocaine into the Black community to fund wars in Nicaragua and fund wars.
Country movements and stuff.
Right. Yeah. 2 days later, that news was overshadowed by a story about, a semen-stained blue dress that happened in the White House. Nobody cared anymore about what happened with the CIA and the Contras and all that stuff. Nobody cared about that.
Right.
All they cared about is this blue dress and what built out of that.
Right.
The impeachment process, the impeachment trial for the first black president, right? And so that's what happens every time. Sometimes it's not as major. Sometimes as a big story, black people are getting themselves together, and all of a sudden, Jay-Z again in the elevator, going back and forth with Beyonce's younger sister, Solange. We have some things going on, but there's this elevator picture of Ray Rice striking his girlfriend. So we're not going to focus. So black people have the attention span of a gnat, and we love certain things. So you put vinegar out, gnats won't go near it. You put something sweet out, gnats will hover over it, attack you for it, and and swarm you for it. Black people don't want to deal with the vinegar. We want to deal with the sweet. And our problem is, it was our responsibility. Social media is our responsibility to spread that case and make it go viral. If that's what we're doing, because we do it with the other stuff.
Yes. Look, man, I'm glad you said that, because look, right now, if you go on most social media sites, the top three things that I'm seeing that black people are talking about are Diddy, Jay-Z, and cooking with Kaya. So yeah, I don't want. So yeah, right. So, but getting back to the case though, right?
This doesn't sell in the shade room. You won't get clicks and views for this in the shade room.
Yeah. But the chokehold, you put the chokehold on him, you keep the chokehold on him for 6 to 15 minutes. Why didn't you choose another method of restraint? After you do after you get him a bit subdued with the chokehold, you could have changed to something else, because you're a Marine. So you have various ways of restraining the man. So that's why, just looking at it like that, like the intent was there, because he just holding him. And so some of the information that I've been looking at is saying that Daniel Perry started choking out Jordan Neely as Jordan Neely approached a bench with women. And they're calling it self-defense for Perry. But how is it self-defense for Perry when he wasn't defending himself? He was attacking Jordan Neely to restrain Jordan Neely, right? So that's not self-defense. So the words that they're using are interesting. No, they're intentional, rather. The words that they're using are intentional. Also, I was watching Piers Morgan, because I like to watch both sides. So I was watching Piers Morgan, and they were talking about it. And they had Mark Lamont Hill on there, and Mark, he ain't the best debater. But it was interesting because Piers Morgan, when he opened up his dialogue, he called Jordan Neely a deranged lunatic. And Mark Lamont Hill called him out on that. Was like, well, why are you calling him a deranged lunatic when you know that he's suffering with mental illnesses? Why can't you just say this man had a moment where he behaved like a deranged lunatic, rather than just blankly calling him a deranged lunatic? And then Piers Morgan like, well, he was behaving like that, so I'm gonna call him that. Well, like, come on, if it was somebody who was on the right, you wouldn't be saying that, because Piers Morgan support the right. So if it was somebody that was on the right, he wouldn't say that. But he also went on to talk about Jordan Neely's father and the role that his father may have played or may not have played, and asking the question of, why didn't you do more to help your son with mental health issues? And from my view, when Piers said that let me know that him and others who think like that, I doubt that they've really worked with people with mental health issues or even with addictions. And I've grew up around those people. I work in human services. I help all types of people, right? And so people with mental health issues, people with addictions, all those different things. I'm not saying Jordan Neely was addicted to anything, but I'm just saying the comparison of somebody with a mental health issue, somebody with an addiction who is trying to overcome something that will take time for them to overcome. So in that, if you've ever worked in any type of human services or working with somebody, you know, it's a marathon. And first of all, Jordan Neely is a grown man, so you can't restrain him and hold him down and make him do anything that you want him to do. Jordan has to also want to do that as well. But when you're dealing with the mental health issues, you like, what are you supposed to do? Just tie him up and throw him in the room? I mean, he's a person, he's a grown man, he has autonomy, all those different things. And you got to, the best thing you can do is do what you can to help them. So we don't know all the details on this case as far as the involvement of the father, but I thought when Pierce said that, it was okay. You showing your ignorance, and you know you're doing what you're supposed to do, defend your boys, defend your side. But going back to what we all have been saying, we should expect this at this point, because we've done nothing to be able to have the narrative changed on our side outside of being thrown a bone every now and then. Because you saw that was what, Michael Brown's mother that was speaking with them. I believe this is what they said. But
no, that was that was Eric Gardner's
mother. Yeah. Excuse me, Eric Gardner's mother. But you hear what she's saying. Remember, especially the second term of Obama, the string of Black people who were taken out by either white police officers or just white vigilantes, period. Then George Floyd happened, and the police officer in the George Floyd case was actually arrested and convicted, and he's serving prison time now. So I think we relaxed. I think we let our guard down. I think we got hope. I think because, you know, after the election, that's why you got Black women saying this to white women, I thought you were on our sides and stuff, you know, and Black people are now like, well, racism is still here. Racism is still here. It never left. We just let our guards down. We got comfortable. We thought it was all good, especially with Joe Biden and all them, with Joe Biden and all them. We got comfortable. And like PC said, we forgot we was at war.
I think that's another area where we're dropping the ball, because like I work with people, and I am because we do need to talk about the mental health piece, right?
Right.
This man did have schizophrenia, and he was hospitalized numerous times for it. And as somebody that works daily with people that struggle with schizophrenia, they're all being failed. But it is a dangerous thing for a Black man to be in this situation with that particular ailment, because it's a license to do whatever I want to you.
Yeah.
Situation. And we talk about, you see it in the old movies, the cops used to pull out their badge and he say, you see what it is? Do whatever I want to do to you, badge. You know, you see that all the time. That's what that diagnosis is without the badge. And this should be confirmation of that. But we see it all the time in the mental health field nowadays, especially. I'm talking to more and more professionals, and PC's been working with mental health for years now. Decades now, not seldom short. It's not been years, it's been decades. Where, you know, but that particular element, because it shows up in your late teens, is really when they really start paying attention to it. They're not allowed to diagnose you with it nowadays before 18. But it shows up, and it's usually followed by a dramatic shift in behaviors, patterns, moods, and everything else. And you got to think about why that is. It's because there's some sort of positive thing going on with them. And that is usually an additive thing, where it be some sort of delusion, some sort of belief in something that is not really there. But to them, it's real. They're hearing things, they're seeing things, whatever the case might be. And so we have on record plenty of cases where I've been reading about cases where Black men and Black women are diagnosed with schizophrenia, and then they go vanishing. They just vanish. They disappear. There are other cases where they disappear and then they resurface. You find out what happened to them. In some cases, some of them feel like they were abducted. In other cases, Others of them feel like they weren't supportive, so they just left. Some of them come back and don't know where they went. But there is a real struggle in this country to deal with schizophrenia in general. So now you add in the black male element to it, and it truly does become a license to brutalize in whatever way possible, where you don't even need the badge anymore. And that's another part of this whole thing that is being, again, messed up. We're so caught up in getting justice for this one incident that we're missing the fact that this could be a catalyst for a whole different type of movement just within the community itself with regards to mental health.
But it also opens the door for Piers Morgan and other people who are in support of Daniel Penny to attack the father and say, well, you were negligent of your son. You didn't help your son. You didn't do all you need to do with your son, without having any information on any involvement of the father.
And that's where anybody that works with this particular population can tell you, when somebody is died, depending on the nature of their diagnosis, as a parent, there really ain't a whole lot you can do.
It's an adult. What is he supposed to do? Like put him in a padded room and tie him down?
You can IBC somebody, but they know how to play the game. They can get out, or they're an adult. They can just declare that they can leave, or they have so many other options. And even when you IBC them, their job is to stabilize them. So you stabilize them, they get stable, and then you release them right back out. There are so many different. That the system is not set up appropriately to deal with this particular condition in general. And we're talking about a same system that is also not set up to favorably interact with black men. And this is that's where a mental health professional could have come in and been like, well, Piers, that's not even because black, white, brown, blue, alien, purple, whatever, it don't matter. There's only so much a parent can do when their child is diagnosed with this condition. And we can say this condition because they're generally not diagnosed with it before the age of 18. So they aren't diagnosing kids with schizophrenia. Not nowadays, anyways. So
they changed that.
Right. I had to say that. Not nowadays. But I think that's one of the things that, like, there are just so many elements of this conversation that are being missed because we're hyper focused on the traditional route that this conversation follows. And that's where it goes back to something that PC was saying with regards to, we know that this path doesn't work. Why do we continue to stay on it? And I do agree with him when he says we're afraid to get off it.
We are. That means we have to work, and we have to create, and we have to produce, and we have to take accountability. And then we can't rely on them. We can't rely on the oppressors. We're stuck in the cycle of the reliance upon white people to save us, and they're not going to save us. They're not. Why would they change our position? Why would it be advantageous for white people to elevate our position within their system?
It won't. But but they raised us. They created the Negro.
Right.
We are their creation. It's like the Frankenstein monster.
Yes.
Frankenstein monster went to Dr. Frankenstein and said, "Yay, daddy, you need to fix my situation. I'm lonely. You need to create a wife for me. And I'm gonna kill, well, dang, my bad. I'm a MDK your wife. And so you can see how it feels. I need me a wife." You know what I'm saying? But the Piers Morgan thing, Piers Morgan's a race soldier. Yeah. So race soldiers don't have remorse for you, for whatever happens to you. It's funny how he can call this young man crazy and deranged when the whole idea of whenever there's a mass, shooter out here, they say, well, they were suffering from mental illness. But however,
yes,
they seem to survive the encounter. They have weapons on them of mass destruction, but they're able to survive the encounter because they're not going to harm anybody that looks like them, that comes from them. They're gonna, that whole quote, that oath that police take to preserve life at all costs, that they're only talking about each other. They're only talking about their side of the equation. Black people are seen as enemy combatants. You treat them with extreme prejudice at all times. And I'm tired of having these conversations because it's redundant at this point. I'm not tired of having this conversation. I'm tired of having to say the same thing over and over. It's redundant. Now, we can talk about deranged. You want to talk about deranged? Let's talk about all the people who suffer from affluenza. All right. Who, you know, the crime where I was so rich, I didn't realize I was privileged. I didn't realize I was actually committing a crime over here. You know, let's talk about the DuPont family dynasty right here in Philadelphia. In Delaware, you had Richard Richards, who SM'd his infant granddaughter, right? And got house arrest because they said he suffered from influenza. But I don't hear nobody calling his actions deranged and crazy. You know what I'm saying? So we this is why we have to have control over our images. Now, I made a big deal about the whole Meg Thee Stallion video that just came out. I forgot who she did the video with, but it had a brother with his throat slit in the bathroom. You had another brother who bled out in the middle of a dried up swimming pool. All these images of dead men. We don't think it don't add up to this, to the being desensitized to stories like this.
Yes.
So because you keep popping those images, I'm going to say something that was interesting about that case with the exec from United Healthcare.
The healthcare, yeah.
That was the first time I ever saw them actually show somebody from the white community who actually got clipped, and they showed the whole reel. Normally they cut it off because we're not supposed to see white people in that situation because they don't want anybody to get comfortable with seeing the image of expired white folk. But they're comfortable with showing us 4 hours of Mike Brown laying on the ground. They're comfortable with every time they're showing one of us and there's a police involved shooting, they're comfortable with showing us on the receiving end of that. They're comfortable with that because it's about the image. So I had the biggest issue with the Meg Thee Stallion video because that spoke to another image that you're legitimizing the images of deceased black men. And, and it comes back to this because now black people care more about these entertainers that are in trouble. They care more about somebody twerking and cooking online than they do about preserving the lives of black men. And we already saw.
Well, yeah.
Post the election, that a lot of the members of the sisterhood were actually wishing this on us.
Yes. And the sentiment was because remember this case happened last year
under the Biden administration.
So after the election, the sentiment now what's interesting. So we're going to be fair and we're going to be honest and fair because we realize that most black people aren't talking about this case because, like we said earlier, they don't know about it. But it coincidentally lines up as far as the verdict and everything with the post-election fallout where black women are basically like, we are not going to fight or say anything when something happens to black men. No, those cynical, vile black women who were saying that online. And it's interesting that it lines up with this timeline, with everything that's happening, because if you don't know any better, you would be the one to say, oh, dang, black women ain't standing up for us, which is not true because I watch I catch clips from the Messy Michonne YouTube channel, and it was a black lady on there going off about the case, and you know the title was, well, I thought black women said that they wasn't gonna stand up for black men, but here you have and matter of fact, I've seen 2 videos so far of black women speaking out and standing up for this for the verdict in the case for Jordan Neely. But you know, nevertheless,
big whoop, Joe, big whoop.
And to Pat Stan, it needs to, no, this is something that should have been addressed by the entirety of Black women. The same way they wanted everybody on code for that election. Not that we're going to keep going there. It's the same way that emphasis, not all of us, no, it was too many of y'all, and too many of y'all silently sat there and let it happen. But I don't want to stay on that because I know that's not what your talking point is. That talking points for this joint show is. I want to go back to the mental health part because Pat is right. That whole notion behind schizophrenia is very underplayed in terms of how many people have it. It is extremely dangerous when a Black man has schizophrenia because the cops don't need much. People don't need much to do harm to Black men. And that's what I was really speaking of with the imagery of the Meg Thee Stallion video that makes it acceptable.
That's what I was going to get
to see Black men deceased and in violent ways. You know what I'm saying? You in the bathroom with your throat slit and they actually watch them twerk out. You know what I'm saying? So, or tweak out from that. And then you got so let's go back to the mental health aspect of it. Law enforcement and the mental health industry are like this. When there's an issue concerning somebody that in Philadelphia, involuntary hospitalizations are called 302. It's coded 302. Voluntary hospitalizations are coded 201s. That's when somebody checks themselves into the hospital. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of the people that check themselves or try to check themselves into the hospitals or into the clinics, they're denied, which actually is ironically tied into the U.S. healthcare thing, ain't it? But a lot of them are denied. In fact, there's a practice that you know, especially if the person is drug and alcohol addicted. There was a practice back when I was a case manager. I'm not saying I ever did this, but you would literally have to have that person inebriated. So some people would literally go out and buy a fifth of liquor to get that person inebriated. So when they showed up, they couldn't be denied services. That's what we're dealing with now. You have to literally feed into somebody's addiction to get them services. And these people, the reason they're suffering from drug addiction and alcohol addiction is because they're trying to self-medicate. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows what goes on in the mind of somebody that's schizo. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine, and I really can't imagine what goes on in the mind of somebody suffering from schizophrenia because they're all over the place, scrambled. They hear voices. They see things we don't see. And so they're reacting and responding to things you can't see. They're not even a danger to most people. They're reacting to their circumstances. Right. And for somebody to take advantage of that is because he knew exactly how harmful that young brother was. That young brother was. Right. And, you know, I mean, you got people that could light up a whole church and they get treated to Burger King.
Humanity, but yes, but
this is war.
I know because I forgot the end point when I started talking. Like, damn, what was I trying to say? But yeah, you reminded me. But like you just said, so Dylan Roof does what he does, eliminates those Black people in the church, and the police officers feel sorry for him, and they're taking the Burger King. But now we're talking about the image of the white male versus the image of the Black male. And once again, another thing that lines up with this is how vile Black women have been talking about Black men for the last few months, especially around the election. And so that further degrades the Black male image, right? So Black men with schizophrenia is another mark on them. And then just the image of the Black male, because the image of the Black male is violent, is vile, is uncouth, is undisciplined. You're multiple baby fathers. You have no type of discipline in your life. You're the lowest form of manhood or maleness. You're the lowest form of maleness, all these things. So if we're going to denigrate the Black male and the Black male image, it's easy for that Black male to be eliminated. And it's easy for even Black women who have disdain for Black women to celebrate the death of Black men, you know, like with KS. But also just
Kobe Bryant, the list goes on.
But also to call for the deaths of Black men. So it's interesting all this lines up. But when when the image of black men is continuously sullied. Because remember, we're talking about one of the first the first big screen degradation of the black male image was Birth of a Nation. Now that wasn't the beginning, but that was the first big screen degradation, and that led to more of the degradation in the video or the media via film or TV, because it was already through print and newspapers and radio and in regular life. It was already happening, but it just expanded. So it exacerbated the degradation of the black male image. And then we get to where we are now. Look at how black men are described when people talk about black men.
The disdain is present. The disdain is very observable.
Right.
Just from, it's like somebody has a bad taste in their mouth and they're trying to, figure out a way to talk on it. It's like, it's the bitterness towards us. And this is not just the last few months, few years. This has been going on, from, like you said, for first of all, from the white media establishment. This has been going on for almost 200 years.
Right.
This has been going on. I'm sorry.
No, that's just real quick. But because, like you're saying, this is the difference between somebody who was seen as a threat and taken out, who had mental health issues, who was white, who would be labeled as a person with mental health issues, versus a black person who would be seen as a threat and taken out with mental health issues to be labeled as a deranged lunatic.
Going back to Dylan Roof, they kept trying to try him as somebody who was suffering from mental illnesses, and he vehemently denied suffering from any mental illness on several occasions. Several occasions, they tried to placate him as some sort of create some sort of victimhood for him, and so that's been going on for ever since the whole notion of post-slavery and black men as being depicted as gorillas with their knuckles dragging on the ground with a white woman over their shoulders, which eventually led to the movie franchise King Kong. So those things that eventually led to the mass destruction. Right.
Yeah, LeBron James did do that.
Yeah, ignorant. And to this day, if you ask him about it, I promise you he'll downplay it.
So, it was just fun, something fun to do,
Y'all take things too literal. No. These are how seeds are planted. And whole black towns were massacred behind it.
What? Yeah.
Whole black towns were massacred behind those concepts. We talk about Tulsa. Tulsa wasn't the only one. Tulsa wasn't nearly the first one. You had the Bloody Summer of 1919 based on that. You had Rosewood. You had Galveston. You had all these other towns. Wilmington, North Carolina. You had all these different towns. Bruh, we can go on. That list is large. That list is long. And we're not even talking about the towns that were flooded. You know what I'm saying? So this is when we talk about you distort the image. And I think the ignorance of when this happens is black men have been your only protection.
Yes.
When we talk about this. So when you do this, you yourself become vulnerable because nobody else cares about you. Nobody.
Going back to what you said, talked about with George Frazier, though, we actively acquiesced our power and our refusal to build and maintain families, because one of the things is that's going to force us. Now, hold up, excuse me, let me say that again. To build and maintain healthy family units, because that's going to cause all you Negroes to grow up and reprogram yourselves out of the Negro mindset. And that's work.
It's going to cause a lot of Negroes to be homeless. There's going to be some bottoms be faced before, because we're going
to keep uplifting these heroes, because Daniel Penny is being touted as a hero for saving people on this train.
Yeah, well, yeah. He's seen as that, and that's the narrative they'll carry, and they'll generate and create his and empower, well, emboss his image, and he will be celebrated. He's being celebrated right now.
Right.
He has George Zimmerman status already.
Right.
And,
Right.
So but nothing's going to change until we change.
And he's a veteran.
So nothing's going to change until we change. And that's the bottom line. And we got to make some harsh decisions in terms of changing, because one thing they gotten us good with is being comfortable. We can't talk about like I had a power outage last week, and it was one of the coldest nights of the year. I talked to y'all about it. I got hypothermia because of how cold it was in my house, and that was for 6 hours. Right? 6 hours. Now just imagine the impact that had on me. I had a whole different outlook on the situation homeless people are dealing with. That 6 hours gave me a window into how they live and what they're dealing with, what they're going through. Black people are going to need their 6 hours before we decide that we need to do something about our circumstances. Most black people right now don't even have real solid relationship values and goals. We don't even have a code in terms of how to feel it. And I was having a conversation with a brother of mine from Britain, and I was telling him, I said, your situation and our situation, we're both black, but it's different. Mm-hmm. And I love this brother. It's a good brother. You can trace your roots back to Nigeria. Y'all have culture there. Y'all have a certain way that y'all deal with each other. Our situation like scrambled eggs from different hens. Well, excuse me, from different chickens. So we're scrambled all over the place, and nobody wants to be accountable enough to say, listen, if we want to survive, because that's what this is about right now. If you want to survive, we got to get on code. Like the Asian community who can't stand each other got on code because they realized that collectively speaking, they're warring with white supremacy too. But they want to create a form of Asian supremacy. So collectively speaking, the Asian community is putting aside all their differences. All those little countries in Southern Asia and Southeast Asia, they can't stand each other. But they put aside their differences so that they can globally compete with white supremacy. And they've teamed up with China, of course, but they understood the need to get on code and have a code of conduct. That's why Asians from all communities came to New York City to celebrate Peter Liang damn it, I just had his name, but I just thought about the fact that I said a word that, I see Joe at the pen. I think it's Akil Gurley. Forgive me if I got his name wrong, but I had it for a second. In that stairwell in that Brooklyn apartment building, the entirety of the Asian community said, 1 shot, 2 victims. And they protested to the point where he got a suspended jail sentence.
Yeah.
Shut down the shops and everything.
The Chinese in New York, I believe, are protesting now because they want to build a skyscraper jail in the middle of Chinatown. And they're like, this is going to degrade our community. So they're coming together to fight it. But they have a community. They have a community.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing here in Philly. The 76ers are trying to build a new arena in Center City, Philadelphia, which is right smack dab in the middle of Chinatown. And they're fighting it right now. They're losing, but they're at least fighting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to get a deal, some type of side deal to rebuild or reestablish Chinatown.
So, I mean, it comes down to what we were talking about earlier, power. Daniel Penny is being touted as a hero because he represents the power structure and he's backed by the power structure. He wasn't left out like the officer from the George Floyd case. Because remember, they're going to have some casualties every now and then. They're gonna throw us a bone every now and then. But for the most part, we have to stop expecting America to change for the better, and we change for the better. Because if not, I mean, hey, we'll see y'all next year.
Well, I want to say, even to that, if the goal of the change is to get white people to change, you still ain't doing it right. Like, so for people that would be listening that would say, yeah, because they're not gonna change till we change. You still not doing
That's
it
not
right.
what that's not what I mean. I mean, we have to change and we have to become powerful. I say this all the time on my Monday videos, my book readings. We have to become a powerful group of people, not us change so they can be better. Keep trying to. That's an antelope will never try to appeal to the moral sensibilities of a hyena. You gonna run or you gonna fight? Because if you make the wrong decision, you won't be here again anymore. This is real life. This ain't no video game. We either gonna run or we gonna fight. But white America will not change for the better for us. They're gonna change for the better in their eyes for what suits them. That's better for them, not what we think is better for us or what even is morally better. If you're thinking like that, hey man, you owe me $1,000 because you gullible. So, hey man. Once again, though, make sure y'all check out FetLifeStation.com. Go on over there, FetLifeStation.com, because PC getting busy. ThePax.org is the greatest website you've ever come across in your life. Remember, the worst thing gonna happen if you go to ThePax.org, ThePACTS.org at the bottom on PAX. The worst thing gonna happen if you go to that website is you're gonna learn something. Make sure you check out ontheshoulders1.com. Continue to support this channel. Thank you to everybody who continue to support my channel. Thank you to me, Kim, you the realist. Thank you to everybody in my comments. All the love from Paris, everybody.
Shout out to me, Kim. Shout out to me, Kim.
Yeah. So I appreciate everybody who's helping On the Shoulders of Giants grow. Shout out to all the parents involved in my Black History School. I appreciate you all. Y'all just have no idea how much easier you all make it because you pour into your children and you support your children. So I appreciate you and I have the utmost respect for you, and I can't wait till we meet again. So with that being said, Joseph Ward, Professor Carl Tone Jones, Patrick Irvin, we out. We'll catch y'all next week.